When you think of gods and mythology, what comes to mind first? Maybe Zeus hurling lightning bolts from Mount Olympus. Maybe Odin seated on his throne in Asgard with his ravens whispering secrets of the 9 realms. Or perhaps Vishnu, Shiva, and the gods of India. Their temples carved in dazzling stone. We know these names because they have been written, rewritten, and retold in textbooks, novels, movies, and video games. They are taught in schools, celebrated in pop culture, and given the respect of world mythology. But what about Africa? The continent that is the cradle of humanity, the birthplace of the first humans, the source of the Nile, the ground where pyramids rose and empires flourished, also has its pantheon of gods. And not just a few, hundreds. These gods ruled the skies and the seas, guarded harvests and forests, guided warriors and kings, blessed mothers and children, and protected communities from forces both visible and invisible. Yet most people, even Africans themselves, have never heard their names. Why? Because colonialism deliberately silenced them. European missionaries called them idols. Colonial officers dismissed them as superstitions. Scholars treated them as curiosities rather than legitimate deities. And so, slowly, Africa's gods were pushed into the shadows. But shadows do not mean death. The gods of Africa survived in rituals, in dances, in whispered prayers at gravesides, in songs carried by enslaved Africans across the oceans. They lived on in Santeria in Cuba, in Vodou in Haiti, in Candomblé in Brazil, in drumbeats that echo across the world today. And now we are going to bring them back into the light. This video will introduce you to 10 African gods you were never taught about. Some are creators, bringing forth sun, moon, and life itself. Some are fierce protectors, gods of thunder, iron, and war. Others embody love, beauty, fertility, or trickery. They are not relics. They are part of a living legacy. And once you know them, you'll see that Africa's pantheon is just as powerful, just as complex, and just as worthy of study as Greece, Rome, or India. So stay with me until the very end, because God number 10 will absolutely transform the way you think about mythology, history, and identity. And before we dive in, I want to invite you, like this video, share it with your friends, and drop a comment below. Did you know Africa had its own pantheon of gods? Do you think schools should teach about them alongside Zeus and Odin? Your support doesn't just help this channel. It helps the algorithm to spread the message, keeps history alive, and gives voice to stories our ancestors would want us to tell. Now, let's begin our journey. Our journey starts in West Africa, with the Akan people of Ghana who honor Nyame, the great sky god. Nyame is the supreme creator, the one who dwells in the heavens. His very name means, he who is in the sky. He is the giver of life, the provider of rain, the source of the sun and moon. But Nyame is not a distant, cold figure. He works in harmony with Asase Ya, the goddess of the earth, who is often considered his wife. Together, Nyame and Asase Ya represent balance, the sky and the soil, rain and crops, male and female, heaven and earth. The Akan say, "No one shows a child the sky," meaning, the presence of Nyame is so obvious, so overwhelming, that no explanation is needed. And yet, colonialism nearly erased him. When missionaries came to Ghana, they equated Nyame with the Christian god, trying to absorb him into their framework. But Nyame is not borrowed. He is original, African, rooted in the land. His symbol, the Gi Nyame Adinkra, is one of the most famous in Africa. It means, except for God. a reminder that nothing exists without Nyame. You'll see it on jewelry, clothing, and even buildings across Ghana today. Nyame is the first reminder that Africa's gods were not primitive or forgotten. They were sophisticated, tied to philosophy, balance, and identity. Next, we move to Nigeria, where the Yoruba people worship Olódùmarè. Olódùmarè is the supreme god, the source of all life and all energy. But what makes him unique is how he governs, not directly, but through a vast network of divine beings called the Orishas. The Orishas are like ministers, generals, or governors. Each controls a different aspect of life: love, iron, rivers, thunder, fertility. And each Orisha is deeply personal. They are gods with human-like emotions, flaws, and stories, making them relatable and accessible. But none of them could exist without Olódùmarè. He is the one who gave them Ase, the spiritual energy that powers the universe. Ase is what makes a prayer answered, a spell effective, or a ritual successful. The Yoruba say, Olódùmarè is not worshipped directly. Instead, people approach him through the Orishas, who act as intermediaries. This system made Yoruba spirituality incredibly resilient. When enslaved Africans were taken to the Americas, they carried their Orishas with them. The Orishas survived by blending with Catholic saints in Cuba, Santeria; in Brazil, Candomblé; in Haiti, Voodoo. So today, when you hear Afro-Cuban drums in Havana or watch a Candomblé ceremony in Bahia, you are hearing the heartbeat of Olódùmarè, alive, unbroken, unforgotten. Now, let's meet one of the most beloved African goddesses, Oshun. If you've seen Beyoncé's Lemonade album, the yellow dress, the flowing water, the dance, that was Oshun. Oshun is the Yoruba goddess of rivers, love, fertility, and beauty. She is often portrayed as a radiant woman in shimmering gold, carrying mirrors, honey, and flowing water. But don't mistake her sweetness for weakness. In Yoruba mythology, when the male Orishas tried to create the world without her, they failed. Crops withered, rivers dried up, chaos spread. Only when Oshun was honored did balance return. Every year in Nigeria, thousands attend the Oshun Oshogbo festival. They dress in white, carry offerings of honey and flowers, and gather at the sacred river. It's a festival of love, fertility, and renewal. A reminder of Oshun's enduring power. And just like Olódùmarè, Oshun crossed the Atlantic. In Cuba, she became associated with the Virgin of Charity. In Brazil, she shines as Oxum, goddess of sweet waters. Oshun represents not just beauty, but the truth that women are central to creation. Without her, the world itself cannot survive. Where Oshun is sweetness and water, Shango is fire and thunder. Shango was once a real king of the Yoruba, known for his fiery temper and warrior spirit. After his death, he was deified as the god of thunder, lightning, fire, and justice. He wields a double-headed axe, symbolizing his ability to strike both sides with fairness. His voice is the thunder that shakes the sky. His presence is announced by lightning. In Yoruba rituals, drummers play the butter drums, believed to call Shango into the room. When lightning strikes, it is said Shango has spoken. But Shango is more than a war god. He is also the patron of dancers, drummers, and anyone who lives with passion. He represents vitality, rhythm, and courage. In the Caribbean, enslaved Africans kept Shango alive. In Trinidad, Shango Baptist faiths still honor him. In Brazil and Cuba, his cults remain strong. Every beat of the drum is a reminder. Shango's thunder cannot be silenced. Finally, let's meet Ogun, the Yoruba god of iron, war, and technology. Ogun is the patron of blacksmiths, hunters, and all who work with metal. Without him, civilization itself could not exist. According to Yoruba myth, when the Orishas came down to earth, they were blocked by thick forests. It was Ogun who cut the path with his iron tools. He cleared the way for civilization, for farming, for building, for progress. But Ogun is double-edged. His tools create, but they also destroy. He is the god of machetes, plows, and swords, symbols of growth, but also of war. Even today, blacksmiths in parts of Africa pour libations to Ogun before they forge iron. Drivers, mechanics, and even soldiers call on him for protection. Ogun reminds us that technology is sacred, but also dangerous. A force that can either build a village or burn it down. So far, we've met 5 gods of Africa's pantheon. Nyame, the sky god of the Arkan. Olódùmarè, the supreme power of the Yoruba. Oshun, goddess of love and rivers. Shango, god of thunder and passion. Ogun, god of iron, war, and progress. These 5 alone already reveal the depth, beauty, and sophistication of African spirituality. And yet, this is just the beginning, because Africa's pantheon stretches further. Across the continent, gods of seas, trickery, fertility, and the sun await. And trust me, god number 10 will blow your mind. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll uncover Mummy Water, Anansi the spider, Mwari of Zimbabwe, and more. Gods who shaped the destiny not just of Africa, but of the world. And before we continue, I'll ask again. Like this video, share it, and tell us in the comments, which god so far has captured your imagination the most? Your voice matters, and together, we're reviving the memory of the gods history tried to erase. If Oshun is rivers, then Mummy Water is the vast oceans. Her name means Mother of Waters, and she is one of the most widely venerated deities across Africa and the diaspora. From Nigeria to Ghana, from Congo to the Caribbean, you will find shrines to Mummy Water. She is often depicted as a mermaid, half woman, half fish, adorned with jewels, mirrors, and flowing hair. In some depictions, she holds snakes, symbolizing power and rebirth. Mummy Water embodies beauty, wealth, fertility, and mystery. She is seductive, enchanting, but also dangerous. Those who worship her believe she can bring prosperity, but she can also punish greed and disrespect. During colonial times, European missionaries called her devilish. But ironically, images of mermaids and sirens brought by Europeans were adopted into her iconography. In this way, Mummy Water shows Africa's genius for adaptation, taking foreign symbols and reshaping them into African ones. Even today, traders and business people in West Africa seek her blessings for financial success. Musicians sing her praises. Dancers invoke her presence in flowing movements. And across the diaspora, from Haiti to Brazil, Mummy Water survives in syncretized forms, blending African spirituality with Catholic saints. Mummy Water is not just a goddess of wealth. She is a symbol of survival across the seas. Just as Africans were forced into ships and carried across the Atlantic, so too did Mummy Water travel, her waters crossing borders, her songs whispered in every wave. Stay tuned, because the next god on our list may surprise you. He's not a king, not a warrior, but a trickster spider who wove his way into world folklore. Meet Anansi, the spider. Unlike Shango or Ogun, Anansi is not about thunder or war. He is about wit, survival, and wisdom. Originating from the Akan people of Ghana, Anansi is the trickster who uses his cleverness to outsmart stronger opponents. Sometimes greedy, sometimes foolish, but always cunning. Anansi's stories teach lessons about human nature. In one famous tale, Anansi tricks the sky god, Nyame, into giving him all the world's stories. He then shares them with humanity, making him the patron of storytelling itself. When Africans were enslaved and taken to the Caribbean, Anansi went with them. He became Aunt Nancy in Jamaica, Anansi in Suriname, and influenced Brer Rabbit tales in the United States. Wherever Africans told stories, Anansi's web stretched wider. But Anansi is more than a folktale. He represents resistance. For enslaved Africans, telling Anansi stories was a way of mocking oppressors, of saying, "We may not have power, but we have wit. And wit can outlast chains." Today, Anansi's stories are still told to children in Ghana and across the diaspora. His web connects past and present, Africa and the world. And speaking of connections, our next god comes from southern Africa, embodying the spirit of the land itself. In southern Africa, the Shona people of Zimbabwe worship Mwari, also called Mwari wa Zimbabwe, the supreme being and creator of the universe. Mwari is believed to dwell in the Matobo Hills, a sacred place of caves and rocks. It is here that spirit mediums, known as Mhondoro, speak with Mwari on behalf of the people. Unlike some gods who are approached through elaborate rituals, Mwari is seen as both distant and near. He governs the rain, fertility, and morality. When drought strikes, communities travel to sacred shrines to offer prayers and sacrifices. Mwari played a key role in resistance against colonial rule. Spirit mediums declared that Mwari opposed European domination, inspiring uprisings like the first Chimurenga in the late 1800s. In this way, Mwari was not just a god of crops, he was a god of liberation. Even today, many Zimbabweans see Mwari as central to their spiritual identity. The Matobo Hills remain a UNESCO World Heritage Site, where sacred rituals are still performed. Mwari reminds us that African gods were not confined to myth. They were, and still are, part of real struggles for land, dignity, and freedom. And now, from Zimbabwe, let's journey to East Africa, where a god of the sky still commands respect. Among the Kikuyu of Kenya, the supreme god is Ngai, also called the god of Mount Kenya. Ngai is the creator of all things, the giver of life, the provider of rain. He is said to reside on Mount Kenya, the sacred peak where earth touches sky. The Kikuyu believe Ngai gave land to humanity and expects them to care for it. Elders face Mount Kenya when praying, pouring libations and offering sacrifices. Ngai is deeply tied to justice. When oaths are sworn under sacred fig trees, Ngai is invoked as witness. Breaking such an oath brings not just shame, but divine punishment. During colonial times, Ngai became a symbol of resistance. Fighters in the Mau Mau uprising of the 1950s took oaths under sacred trees, invoking Ngai to fight for freedom against British rule. Even today, Kikuyu ceremonies invoke Ngai as a living presence. His mountain still stands as a reminder of his watchful eye. Ngai shows us that African gods are not just myths of the past. They are woven into living traditions of justice, land, and community. And now, we come to god number 10, the one whose influence is perhaps the most widespread across Africa. A goddess whose image endures from Egypt to Ethiopia. Our final god is one you may know by name, but not by origin. Isis, or Ast, as the ancient Egyptians called her, is one of the most powerful goddesses in world history. Isis was worshipped as the mother goddess, queen of heaven, protector of children, and goddess of magic. Her cult began in ancient Egypt, but it spread far beyond. The Greeks adopted her. The Romans built temples to her. Even in modern times, echoes of Isis survive in depictions of the Virgin Mary. But let's not forget, Isis is African. She was worshipped on the banks of the Nile, in temples like Philae, thousands of years before Europe even had its gods. Her story is legendary. When her husband Osiris was murdered and his body scattered, Isis searched across the land, gathering the pieces, and through her magic brought him back to life. She then gave birth to Horus, the falcon god, ensuring the lineage of kingship. Isis represents resilience, motherhood, and magic. She is the goddess who conquers death, who turns grief into rebirth, who protects her people across centuries. Today, her name is still invoked in spiritual traditions, feminist movements, and even pop culture. But it's crucial to remember, Isis is not just a figure of global mythology. She is an African goddess, part of Africa's Pantheon, whose influence stretched farther than perhaps any other. And now that we've met all 10, let's bring it all together. We began this journey asking, why do we know Zeus, Odin, and Shiva, but not Nyame, Oshun, or Mwari? Now you've met 10 African gods you were never taught about. Nyame, the sky god of the Akan. Olódùmarè, the supreme god of the Yoruba. Oshun, goddess of rivers and love. Shango, god of thunder and justice. Ogun, god of iron and progress. Mamiwata, spirit of the seas. Anansi, the trickster storyteller. Mwari, god of the land in Zimbabwe. Ngai, god of Mount Kenya. Isis, the African mother goddess who conquered the world. Each one tells us something vital, that Africa has always had gods as complex, as powerful, and as meaningful as any other culture. Colonialism tried to silence them. Missionaries tried to demonize them. Scholars tried to erase them. But gods do not die. They wait. And now, through stories, festivals, and even videos like this, the gods of Africa are remembered once again. So here's my challenge to you. Share this video. Comment which god fascinated you the most. And ask yourself, if schools taught these gods alongside Zeus and Odin, how would our understanding of history change? Because Africa's pantheon deserves its place in the story of world mythology. And by telling their stories, we keep alive the memory, the pride, and the spirit of our ancestors. So, will you return to the gods of Africa? That answer, my friends, is in your hands.